I call this meeting of the joint boards to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get going tonight, I'd like to have a moment of silence for one of Winchendon's firefighters that passed away last week, Mr. Jason Hurton. So we could all just take a minute. Thank you. Now I'll let the other chairs open up their meeting.
I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order.
And we call the school committee to order.
Thank you. The reason for this meeting tonight is to go over the financial management review that the Department of Revenue has done for this town. They've done an outstanding job of looking at what happened and where do we go from here. What we're going to do right now is we're going to open it up to them. They're going to kind of go through what's taken place from their review end. Then the town manager is going to go into what we've taken for steps to correct a lot of these problems. Then we will open up the floor for questions. Okay? So I will let you start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
My name is Zach Blake. I'm from the Department of Revenue's Division of Local Services. I'm here today with Theo Kalivas from the Technical Assistance Bureau, as well as Deb Wagner from the Bureau of Accounts for the Division of Local Services. It was back in March, I believe it was, of this year that we were invited out by joint request of the Board of Selectmen, School Committee, and Finance Committee to perform what we call a financial management review. That review was largely spearheaded because of what can be characterized as sort of a financial crisis that was taking place in the town of Winchendon at the time, beginning somewhere around, right around now to mid-September. There was sort of a cascading effects of issues that took place that resulted in these problems. Namely, there was overspending on the town side. There was deficits that were occurring. That combined with issues involving the way that the budget was adopted, cash reconciliations, the level of uncollected taxes in this community, as well as a significant amount of turnover within the financial management offices themselves. I was looking back in the report on as I got here, and just astounded that you had turnover in your town accountant, your treasurer collector, your assessing operation, as well as the assistants in those operations. So just a tremendous amount of turmoil going on leading up to and during this period. Now, as a result of that, there was a cash crunch that occurred, which required the town to seek special legislation to deficit borrow funds, as well as seek emergency authorization for local aid advances. And those totaled an amount of somewhere north of just over $8 million over the course of the year. And I think you've borrowed at this point, north of $3 million. So it was at that stage when our Director of Accounts for the Bureau of Local Assessment came out and said that we need to come up with some sort of a plan to resolve this. And he met with the former town manager as well as financial staff at that time, and suggested through a series of revenue enhancements, expenditure reductions, that maybe we could balance the budget and resolve these. And I forgot to mention too that a large portion of that deficit was caused by unanticipated health insurance, which the claims were just going through the roof, and it was difficult to finance those. So the Director of Accounts, as one of his initiatives, asked the Division of Local Services Technical Assistance Bureau to come in and perform a financial management review. Just a quick word about who we are and what we do. We've gone through a little bit of a recent transition due to the early retirements at the state level, and so as a state agency, we're shifting a little bit. DLS is primarily a regulatory agency involved in certifying free cash, setting tax rates, and verifying property values. But we have a small unit that comes and really advises and provides sort of consulting services to cities and towns. And what we're looking at primarily when we come out is the municipal operations, the financial management practices, procedures, and policies that are in place to run government, and looking at whether or not those are effective and efficient, and what opportunities, changes, efficiencies might be realized through sort of a third-party review. And so at your all's joint request, we came in, we met with the former town manager at the time, we met with each of the finance officials, so this includes your town accountant, treasurer, collector, the assessing outfit that you have now, Regional Resource Group, as well as the assistants in those offices. We met with the chair of the finance committee, we met with former member of the Board of Selectmen at this point. Obviously, there was a period of transition going on at this time as well. I've since met with Bernie and his Cheryl, his financial consultant, and really laying out, what are the challenges that this town is facing and what can we do to help resolve those. And so in our report, which we completed in July, we lay out essentially our primary recommendations. It's divided into two sections. First is the primary recommendations, which is sort of really addressing the near-term issues that we saw that need to get addressed more immediately to really prevent more state involvement. I mean, at the end of the day, the concern was that we might need to institute some sort of a control board in Winchendon, and we wanted to prevent that. We want communities to manage themselves. We don't want to get into that business. And so we tried to set up a framework where we thought if you could meet these milestones, we would essentially be averting that possibility. Those included developing this financial management action plan that we talked about, which is really those short-term issues, addressing cash flow, uncollected taxes, et cetera, as well as addressing some of those underlying matters regarding the financial software, avoiding these deficits, reconciling cash and receivables, payroll, for example, getting a payroll backup person. And then one of the other big issues that we saw is there's substantial savings that might be realized by looking at how health insurance is provided here in Winchendon. And so we provided an analysis showing that there could be real savings generated by either moving to the GIC or maybe negotiating with collective bargaining units to move into some sort of an alternative strategy. So with that, then we did sort of a broad overview of the finances of the town, going into each of the individual offices of the accountant, treasurer, collector, just talking about the dynamic that's going on there, and then listing out a series of recommendations everywhere from just formally adopting financial management policies, which I know the chair of the finance committee and his team has put a lot of effort into developing, and it's my understanding that those are sort of moving forward and looked, hopefully those will be developed soon. Reinvigorating the capital improvement program. A lot of times we see this in communities where if you're struggling, it's hard to put any money towards capital improvements, so those things start to lie a little bit dormant, and so just reinvigorating that, I think, is really the recommendation there. And then we go into other things like indirect cost methodology for our enterprise funds, defining the role of the audit committee, revising, and some of this is very technical, but revising the cash book, looking at sort of a cash flow analysis, et cetera. And so, with those recommendations, we think there's sort of a framework that I mentioned that can move Winchendon in a positive direction. Now, since our meeting in May, where we came in, the Senior Deputy Commissioner, Sean Cronin, was here, as well as Rick Kingsley, who was the then chief for the Technical Assistance Bureau, as well as Tony Rashis, who was the acting director of accounts. They sort of laid out the issues that are going on here, as well as the deficit legislation, responded to questions there. Since that time in May and our report release in July, it's my understanding that there's been some significant progress that's been made on town operations in terms of meeting these initial milestones that we lay out in fact, a timetable after the primary recommendations. And so I think at the end of the day, that really expresses a level of confidence for us that this town is emerging from what has just sort of been a blip in its financial management. And hopefully we can sort of codify the problem, the solutions, and move forward under new management. And that involves looking at hiring a really qualified permanent town manager. You've got Bernie and Cheryl here who are excellent. They bring a tremendous amount of experience, but that's temporary. How do we move forward from there? So overall, I think that's sort of my message here is that things are moving in a positive direction. We see a lot of good momentum. I don't think there was that concern that we had initially when we were here in May. And a lot of that is under Bernie's leadership and, of course, under a new Board of Selectmen. So, what I think makes the most amount of sense is really having Bernie maybe talk a little bit about what progress has been made here since we were here back in sort of the early spring, and then maybe field questions related to the review and maybe challenges that are going forward, and if we can help resolve those.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize our Senator Angobi is here, instrumental in helping get the legislation passed along with Representatives Lotnick. They're here tonight in the audience. They have were more than willing to come out and talk with us and hear our cries and continue to want to work with us. So I really appreciate your coming out tonight also and continue to listen to us and help us through this time. I think as we continue, we might call you more often, but you'll know we're here, and I really appreciate that. With that, I'm going to open it up to the town manager.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Zach, thank you for the overview of certainly of where the town has been, where we've been over this leading up to the situation that the town found it. Oh, sure. Sorry about that. I'm not shy about speaking into microphones, so I'll try to do that. No, I just want to thank Zach for and the support from the Department of Revenue, certainly from Deb and others at the department, the work that they've done, and Division of Local Services in helping the town of Winchendon and certainly helping us. I do want to introduce Cheryl Wright. Many of you have heard of Cheryl Wright, but you've never seen Cheryl Wright. She's sitting to my right. And she is our financial consultant, extensive, long history in municipal finance, and she has really been a key part, if not the key part, of the turnaround that I think we've made here in the town. And I think that we have made a tremendous amount of progress. We've really only been on for about 2.5 months. It's about 3 months since DOR, DLS were out here to talk to the town. But I think everyone knows the Finance Committee has certainly been working at it, the School Committee, and I know the Board of Selectmen, as well as the Town Accountant, Town Treasurer, and all of the other members of the team to get the town on the right track. And I think we have been able to do that. Clearly, the immediate issue that we faced coming in to the situation was that we had a fiscal year 15 issue of how we were going to balance out the books. Obviously we had an immediate issue that I know that Deb is familiar with a transportation bill that needed to be paid, and we were able to locate money to pay that bill. But that still left us with a situation in fiscal year 15 of how we get through it without running up any more deficits, because clearly the town had already gone through that process in the prior fiscal year and needed to put the necessary controls in place. I'm happy to say that we were able to get a quorum at the special town meeting we held on June 30th. Actions were taken at that time to transfer money around to deal with many of the issues that we had that were able to balance out the books. We had some additional actions that were necessary to meet with the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee to do end-of-year transfers. In fact, fiscal year 15 ended in a much more positive state than originally thought. we really were only left with two budgetary problems. One was one that we knew we had and we couldn't get around, and that was the deficit in the health insurance trust fund. We had about $500,000 thereabouts that we think we're still going to need to borrow through the deficit legislation. We knew that was coming, so as I said, there really wasn't much we could do with it. And then we ended the year with a $27,000 snow and ice deficit, which again, given the winter that we had, is really remarkable for the town. But we were able to cobble together, and I really want to give credit to many of the departments, or all the departments of the town, that were able to stop spending money in June when we put the controls in place, and we were able to cobble together enough money to transfer money around to close out that snow and ice deficit. So that's where we ended fiscal year 15. The other issue, of course, that we faced immediately was fiscal year 16, the current fiscal year. And I'm happy to say that right now, we went over the numbers today with Deb. It appears that fiscal year 16 is balanced. That was an issue that we had. We had a problem with a miscalculation on the tax levy. We had that snow and ice deficit. We had money for the E911 grant that has not been received but was being carried as a revenue figure. We've had some other deficits within, or projected deficits within departments, but we're now at a situation where, in fact, we will have a budget to bring forward or a recap sheet to bring forward to the Department of Revenue that will show us to be in balance for the upcoming fiscal year. We've also taken steps going through the recommended procedures or recommendations that the DOR made. In terms of cash, the town treasurer did do some short-term borrowing to get us over the hump of July, where we had the opportunity to save some money for the town by paying our retirement assessment, paying our insurances early to get some discounts. Obviously, we did not have the revenue on hand to meet all the payroll during that period of time, if we were able to do that, as well as carry on operations. So some short-term borrowing was done, and that will be that's being accommodated during the fiscal year 16. We had an issue that we want to get the auditors in, and we were able to do that. The auditors will be here at the beginning of September, and we hope to have their work completed by the end of September. So we should be well on our way to getting the necessary documentation into the department so that we can get our tax rate set, so we can meet that third quarter billing without any problem. We had the year-end closing for fiscal year 15. I mentioned that we were balanced for fiscal year 15, but we need to be able to close the books so that we can have that audit completed. That will take place this Friday, that the books will be closed. And that, of course, is an important milestone for the town. And in fact, I would offer up that it's probably one of the first communities in the state to have its books closed for fiscal year 15. So
Yeah, excellent work.
I don't know if we get any points for that. In terms of some of the other immediate needs that we had the Munis software issues. Those Munis issues are still there in many respects. But we're going to be experiencing an upgrade to our Munis system come the closing of the books. We will then move forward with that upgrade. A big part of it is the bringing in training, and we're working with Munis on that. One of the strengths that Cheryl brings is an extensive knowledge of Munis in multiple communities. So she knows Munis inside and out, and she's been able to work with the accounting office as they do their work. They also have the extra hands there and the knowledge of the Munis system that they've been able to work through. In terms of certainly one of the issues that the town faces, and every municipality and every organization certainly faces this, of ensuring that there's necessary controls on spending. And we've put those controls on spending. We've fully implemented a PO system, and we've put requirements on the purchase orders. Right now, it's anything over $300 requires a signature of the town manager. Now, that's a little aggressive, or a little, it's would be a conservative.
Yeah.
Thank you. A conservative approach, but for the beginning here, we think that that's an effective control to put in place. So that has been done. The treasurer is moving forward, has sent out the demands for taxes, and we actually had a meeting just last week to go over the process that we're using. And in that area, we're going to be, right now, we've made that initial step, but we're going to become more aggressive as time goes by to bring those taxes in. That isn't a problem that's necessarily going to be solved overnight, but we think we're taking important first steps to make sure that those taxes are collected and we wipe those receivables off the books. In terms of the cash and receivables, there was an issue there. The cash was not being reconciled quite as regularly as we think it should be. We've now moved to a monthly reconciliation. So we're not quite there yet, but that's the goal that we have, and we've shortened that period down in which to do that. I believe it was at about a 3-month period before, and we've shortened that up with revenues, and we've shortened that down into, we're getting to closer to a month. Payroll backup, we're training the assistant treasurer to do backup for the assistant accountant, and we're also bringing on a part-time staff person in the accounting office to provide additional backup. And that, of course, will help us ensure that the financial management system remains strong moving forward, to have that additional part-time staff there. And then I think finally, in terms of immediate steps, in terms of consider moving to the GIC, the Board of Selectmen just voted last week to adopt the statute which allows for the expedited negotiations with our unions. I've been in touch with all of the unions to sort of open the door to further discussions with them. We've actually retained an insurance consulting firm, Cooking Company. I have quite a bit of experience working with Cook over the last 25 years, where we've taken steps of moving to much more affordable health insurance for the employees and for the community, whether it be the GIC or in another case, it was moving to the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association health insurance offerings. So I'm not locked into either one of those options right now, but we do think that there are some savings. Just our initial analysis, and I know that there was an analysis done in the report here. We've done our own analysis that might not show quite as much savings, but we think that there is money to be saved here. And we have knowledge that, in fact, the insurance rates for next year here for the town, based upon some experience information that we already have, if we were to retain the existing plan as is, we'd be looking at some sizable increases in health insurance premiums next year. And this is information that I've just picked up since the selectmen took their vote, but we think that there's some ways to mitigate that impact by moving to a different type of health insurance program. So we're anxious to get that moving, and we think that we'll have that done in time to go with the GIC if that is in fact the decision that we make. But first we have to go through that process, and we've begun that process. The financial team has met several times with Deb. During the summer it becomes more difficult, and everyone's been out straight just trying to close the books and move and get fiscal year 16 set up. But we plan to meet again in early September with all of the members of the finance team, including the school superintendent and the school business manager, and keep those lines of communication open moving forward. With regards to the other recommendations, there is quite a bit of work to be done. We're not going to be able to get all of this done, certainly, by the time we leave, because, as Zach's already indicated, we're not here forever. We're only here pretty much to help through this transition. And I'm also involved with the search for a new town manager, and that process has begun. A search committee has been appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and that we're going to be meeting tomorrow night, in fact, to hear from the public, as well as talk amongst ourselves with the search committee. but we expect that right now, the position has already been posted, and I believe at this point I already have about 12 people who are interested in the position, some more qualified than others, but there are some very qualified people that have applied for this. And in talking to several of them, they've been watching what's been going on here in Winchendon, and in particular, they've read the Department of Revenue report. They realize the work that lies ahead, but they're interested in implementing many of these recommendations and working with members of the community in bringing the town forward. So I think we're well on our way to taking that important step.
Excuse me, Mr. Lynch.
Sure.
I believe the search committee is meeting Wednesday night.
I'm sorry, you're right. I thought I was here on Tuesday, but you're right, it is Wednesday night. I'd be here by myself tomorrow night, so wouldn't want that. So yes, that will be Wednesday night at, I believe, do you remember what time? 6 o'clock. Correct. So, and certainly anyone watching, if they have thoughts on what they would like to see in the next town manager, certainly encourage them to come and participate in that process. If I could just touch upon some of these other, and I won't go through each and every one, but I do think it's important to note number 8, the formal financial policies. I think that's key to the town to have those financial policies in place. It provides a roadmap for.
What page are you on?
I'm just not really on page, I was just going to the table of contents, so I guess that would be page, but it says here page 20 for the financial policies. I think financial policies are very important, and I would like to note, as Zach already has, the good work that the Finance Committee has done in drafting up those financial policies. I'm in the process now, and I have been of reviewing those, and I know it's taking me a little bit of time, but I'm putting time in where I can to look at those. They look generally good. They look generally very good. But so I may want to make a few tweaks in some of those. I like policies to be more broad than very specific, so that there's some flexibility within the way that the town manages itself, but also I think it's important that they clearly set forth the limits or the goals that the town is trying to achieve with regards to its financial management. But I think they're certainly, I know that you've used some examples from other communities and then tweaked those already, and there's some good communities that you've used there, some of which I'm very familiar with because of my own experience. So again, I think those look very good. We did have a meeting of all the departments last week, the non-school departments, and we talked about the capital plan. We'll be meeting with I hope to be meeting with the school superintendent in the near future to talk about the capital plan there as well. And I think we can do a lot in terms of laying out, again, a roadmap for the town in terms of investing in its infrastructure. And I think key to that, and it's really not, I guess it's noted here, I believe somewhere, that the importance of a financial forecasting. And so we're working on a 5-year forecast now for the town, and I hope to have that completed within the next, now that we have a better sense of where we are for fiscal year 16, I hope to take that and then move that into a forecast so that when we're completed, there's actually almost a draft budget for fiscal year 17 and on that the town can look at as it moves forward. But the capital plan will be part of that. The enterprise fund indirect costs, we're working on focusing that towards fiscal year 17 as well. Fiscal year 16 is already there. We need to get over that hump, but then there'll be that methodology that will be built into that forecast for 17 and beyond. So that's where that methodology becomes important. We haven't really had a discussion yet regarding the revenue sharing model. Again, I have some experience with that with a couple of communities where we've tried to put something in place that provides some stability to the school committee and to the remainder of town government so that increases in the school budget are done in such a way that there's some certainty moving forward of how it works. And so we'll be doing some work on that as well. The audit committee has been established. And in fact, a member of the audit committee talked to me right before the meeting about getting together with the auditor once the audit report is complete, So we're already working to set that up. The personnel policies, I'll be working with the state on the Community Compact program. I've already indicated that, so we need to put that together. The town really needs to do something with regards to its personnel policies. I haven't been able to really locate a firm policy, set of policies yet, and its system, whether that takes the form of in bylaw or, an administrative action. We'd like to work with the state to look at the best practice with regards to that. Cash flow analysis, we actually have a cash flow analysis for fiscal year 16 that's been done that actually shows a positive balance at the end of the fiscal year. So again, we think that that's an important step. It's not a very large amount of money that will be left in balance, but in surplus, but there is an analysis that's been completed now for the fiscal year. The cash book is, an analysis is taking place on that right now. More work obviously needs to be done there. We haven't done anything really yet on the billing cycle for water and sewer. The collections, it is our goal, once we're up and running with Munis, to get collections into Munis. So we'll be looking at that. Over time, we think that Munis should be, more and more of the modules should be brought on. Right now, though, we just want to get the basics in place before we take on any new challenges with regards to Munis. We've already ordered the counter computer terminal for the Treasurer's Office. The office filing project is underway. We haven't done really anything yet on the certification directives, but we'll be meeting with the assessors on that. With regards to the disaster recovery plan in our IT area, we are looking to increase the hours of the network administrator so that he can work on that. But with regards to our finances, I think it's important to note that we are on a remote, we are an ASP system, so we do get back up there with regards to the finances. Again, with the IT director, we'll be looking at the different policies with regards to the our technology, shift the website oversight. There already is some of that, that's a considerable amount of that that's already done within the manager's office. So we'll be reviewing that, but that in fact is already occurring. And again, with the IT additional hours that we'll be looking at, we'll be able to provide that help desk that would be very useful to all of the departments. So I think that we're making important strides. Most of the 2.5 months have been focused on closing out, getting 15 resolved, getting 16 resolved, closing the books, getting the auditor in, starting to take the steps on these other areas, looking at the GIC as an area of cost savings. We're also looking at, and I'll be reporting this to the Board of Selectmen next week, but we've already signed an agreement for reduced cost utilities for next year. That will save us, right now it's unclear exactly how much, but somewhere between probably $35,000 to $50,000. And we haven't projected that out in the budget, so that should be savings to us. At the end of the fiscal year, we'll be able to see that savings. So, we're taking all of these steps to save the town money, to stabilize the finances, and to move the town forward from this point. But again, I think much progress has already been made. So that completes my report on where we are.
Thank you. As everyone can hear at home and hear, there's been a lot of work undertaken over the last couple of months. I'm really very glad that we have you, Mr. Lynch. And
Well, thank you.
that's right. You've come at the right time. I will tell you that much. I'm also glad to hear that we're well underway with the audit and the books will actually be closed. I think that's the first time in a long time I've heard we're actually going to be closed by the end of August. So that's good work on all of our departments, school and town side, so that's good news. I know that's usually a Herculean effort trying to get the end of the year closed, plus the school side with the grants trying to close around now. So it's double a whammy there. But I will now open up the floor up to different members to speak about some of the questions. Okay. Ms. Anderson will be first.
Hi. Okay. Is that working? Okay. When I read this report, I think I'm a little bit frustrated, maybe a little bit confused. When we first met with you in May, and again, I went to a financial seminar with Ms. Wagner, and we were told about this perfect storm. And what I read in the report has nothing to do with the perfect storm. It has a lot to do with financial mismanagement. Lack of oversight, lack of leadership are your words. And I think I would rather, because this town has been through an awful schism, if you will, and it's not a blip in our financial picture, it was huge. And the people at home and a lot of people that are here would like to hear you just confirm that this was a horrible thing and it had to be corrected.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I use the wrong words. Any circumstances where you're on the verge of state oversight is certainly a serious issue. And the culmination of issues that resulted in our having to get involved is a serious problem. And so, the fact that as an agency, we got involved, I think, at it early, and we worked with people who are willing to make change was important. And so from that standpoint, I guess I characterized it as a blip because it's amazing the progress that has been made since those challenges were identified, about this time last year in a lot of ways from our viewpoint. And so, the town has just made a tremendous amount of progress. And so hats off to the boards here, as well as professional staff that you have to make that happen so quickly.
Okay, thank you.
I want to compliment you on this report. It's very comprehensive and it is very well done.
Thank you.
My question is kind of specific. It's on page 5. There's a sentence that says, "We also hope that the positive momentum is not undermined by any recent movement to strip the town manager's position of needed authority to implement change." Where did that come from?
So when we were here in May and we were presenting to the board, it was in or around that time I was wrapping up our financial management review. Sort of conversationally, I was hearing that there was some momentum to maybe strip down some of the authorities that had been codified in the town and manager for the town of Winchendon. And so I just wanted to make that statement here because that is pause and a cause for concern for us. It's really the professionalism of the town manager and the strength that authority, that position's authority brings that I think has enabled in a lot of ways this community to emerge from where it was so quickly. And so, rather than moving the organizational structure of the community back, I think it's a matter of let's retain that and move forward, is how I look at that. So it was just sort of a pause to say, look, if this is a direction that the town is considering, they need to think deeply about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? What's that? Okay. It's hot.
Thank you again. It's very comprehensive. And along that lines, I'm kind of wondering if you could speak to mostly the absence of school finances in this. I'd imagine it's not a case where you feel like the schools are all hunky-dory and everything is okay, or if that's something maybe we should look into in the future. But could you speak about the overall absence of, they're mentioned a couple times, but if we could speak about that.
Yeah, and certainly we came out at the joint request, and that included the school committee as well. It's sort of an interesting dynamic. Our expertise is really on town side municipal finance and the policies and procedures and operations that are involved in that. That's also the area where, as the Division of Local Services, we sort of carry a stick in terms of certifying free cash, setting the tax rate, verifying values with property taxes. So without any sort of tools to force change or anything like that on the school-related operations, it's very difficult for us to come in and make a bunch of suggestions where we really don't have an authority to do that, because there's an entirely separate state agency that's designed to do that in DESE. And so there's sort of an informal arrangement, if you will, that DESE will be involved in school-related operations, whereas the Division of Local Services will be on the town side. Now, where there are administrative functions that happen across both of those, we certainly get involved. So if it's matters of payroll or just general business operations in terms of getting bills paid and whatnot, we'll comment on that. But we don't like to stick our nose where we're not the experts.
Mr. Lynch?
If I could add just a little bit there, I think that obviously I read through this after it was issued, and the way I look at it really isn't, I think this is significant moving forward. I don't look at it as town and school. We're all the town of Winchendon. And there are issues in here that may not say school, but they certainly pertain to school as well as all the other departments. So the importance of having cost controls, the importance of making sure that money isn't expended without money being there. The non-school side of things has the responsibility of collecting money and making sure that money is booked the appropriate way. So obviously that wouldn't have anything to do with schools directly, but it does have something to do with the ability of the town to have the resources available to fund the schools, as well as to fund the public works and the fire and the police and so on. So there are a number of items here that may not say school, but they pertain to the town overall. And that's why I think it's important to have that communication, that teamwork, that we're all in this, working on this together. But I think that that's a
And, as Janet brought up at the school committee meeting last week, I just thought it was important for people to hear that the absence of the schools mentioned in here doesn't mean that there's nothing to be cleaned up.
Right, okay. As far as I'm concerned, anytime any organization exists, there's always room for improvement.
Mr. Robichaud? Can we pass the microphone to him, please?
Pay bills? Did I just know what the amount was for the note to pay the bills? Oh, you know how we said earlier we had to borrow money to pay our bills at the start of the fiscal year? I was just wondering what the amount was of that note we took.
Yeah, $1.2 million.
Thank you. One other question.
That, if I could, that pretty much, I think is all.
Thank you. Also, in the report, the word illegal deficits is mentioned a number of times. I wish you guys could just touch on that real quick.
Yeah, I don't know if Debbie, maybe you want to speak to that a little bit more directly and how that works.
It's actually a violation of Mass General Law to expend in excess of appropriation, with the exception of a couple of legal deficits, such as overlay and snow and ice. So that's why the term illegal deficits is used. So that would be with regard to the town spending in excess of appropriation for fiscal 14, as well as the school spending in excess of appropriation for fiscal 14.
And I would just add, a clear breakdown for FY14 is in the appendix, and so you can see where those deficits arose. And as you can see, aside from overlay and snow and ice, there's a significant of them that fall outside that.
On page 33, that appendix you're referring to, the certified free cash. Under 2012, it doesn't show anything for health insurance. But back on page 2, it said, we had a $200,000 deficit in health insurance. And then we had to go to town meeting, a special town meeting in 2012, and I believe it was 50,000 roughly that we had to correct at the town meeting.
Yeah, so if my memory serves me right, and maybe Deb has the answer to this, that was funded, and so it didn't, at the time that free cash was certified, that deficit didn't exist as far as,
And this is with regard to what deficit?
this is, in 2012, they had a $200,000 health insurance deficit. I think that was resolved prior to the
That-
certification of free cash.
I believe was funded in the tax rate setting process. It was raised at
So
town
even if it's
meeting.
after July 1st, it can still be,
Right, it would have been a deficit, I would have to go back and look at the free cash certification, and you may not have had a health insurance trust deficit in 12, but there's the chance that it was funded at a town meeting prior to the end of the fiscal year. I don't have those records in front of me.
Okay.
I would have to look at that.
thank you.
Mr. Millet, you had your hand raised earlier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of work has been done to kind of correct a lot of these problems, and you have to give credit to all the hardworking people of the town, town treasurer, town accountant. We got some people here that are really dedicated. They do a good job. My main question is relates to real estate taxes. Now, I know the treasurer has been working hard at this. Do we have a sense of maybe a certain amount that would be uncollectible that may have to go to land court? Where are we in this area? I guess I'm trying to, to see where we're at. I look at the numbers way in the back on page 33, and we're looking at roughly 900,000 as a rough number. Is there a sense that some of these will not be collectible, or where are we here? Are we going to be able to make these numbers, or there was some talk about probably turning some of these property over to a private collecting agency. Have we made any progress in that at all?
If I may, I think we did talk about that. We wouldn't really be turning it over to a collection agency. What we'd be doing is, after our efforts are completed, we would choose the issue would be that we would try to sell the tax titles in an auction. Unfortunately, it can be a very effective tool to bring money into the town, but generally the only tax title properties that someone wants to buy are the good ones that we'd want to hold on to ourselves in many cases. So we need to evaluate that very carefully. That's why this first step of going out and doing the aggressive tax collecting ourselves and putting things into tax title and taking properties and so on is the first step, and then evaluating the likelihood of being able to sell the tax titles that we still have that we aren't able to do anything with.
Okay.
And based on our experience, when that momentum takes place, it just encourages people to pay their taxes, and so sort of a positive snowball effect, if you will.
I guess the reason for my question is that we don't want to encourage people to not pay their taxes. We want to make sure that we get the funds, but we want to give them an opportunity. If they can get into a payment plan, yes, let's do it. But if there's a sense that some of these properties are just kind of holding off and not paying their taxes for obvious reasons, then we need to be more aggressive. I know there's a certain amount of years that you have to wait. You can't just foreclose on the property within a matter of a couple of years. But these are important questions that we need to answer, and they're floating around in there, and we need to make sure that the only revenue that the town has is through property taxes and some state funds, very little of it. So we need to make sure that we collect those funds.
If I might, I happened to meet with the town treasurer today. She has a long list of properties that they're looking at and going through. She's going through a list to accommodate where we can actually go after tax funds. There are some other slivers of land that are between properties that is lower priority, but eventually we'll be looking to try to sell them pieces of property to the landowners on one side or the other. She's got a very detailed oriented list. I just happened to be there today. I can tell you that we have $1.1 million owed to us in taxes. We have generated interest from that to the tune, if we were to get all our money, to about $2.1 million. And she's actively sending out letters. That's the first step. Then another go-round will be out within the next couple of weeks to reinforce that money that we're due, and then it goes to the final step. So she has taken a lot of time and detail. There's a very large spreadsheet that I did witness today that she is working on to get this done. We do now have the funds to do the tax collection title sale, the auction, but that is down the road. She has made arrangements with people to pay taxes that have come forward. There are people that have made promises to pay that have not, and she has will take the appropriate steps to deal with that. But from what I saw today, I think she's got that well underhand, and we shall see some positive results very, very soon.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not a criticism of what Dawn has done, believe me. I know how hard she works. But I think it's much better, more positive, if this information is made available. At some point, Donna, can you see to it that Tom gets a copy of that? Can you do that? Okay, so that the Finance Committee can be aware of what's going on, because right now we're in the dark. We have no idea what's going on. So it would be very, very good for everybody if we're aware of what's happening. So we wouldn't be asking these questions if we were aware of these things. Thanks, Donna. Thank you.
If I may, I think that Euless makes certainly some good points that with regards to the importance of collecting property taxes. And as I said, most of our focus has been on the immediate issues that we have. Collecting of taxes is always seems there's going to be some taxes out there that aren't being paid. So it's a constant battle to do that. And it is one of our priorities moving forward, working with Donna to make sure that that takes place and making regular reports to the Board of Selectmen as the executive board with regards to that. And certainly that information is public and should be shared with everyone, including the Finance Committee.
Ms. LaBrie.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Lynch, addressing the Munis software issues, page 8 of the financial report. We're going to do the update and get some training. Now, the report points out some specific things. The treasurer collector is on a different financial system. Department heads do not have access to Munis in order to, check their budget process, et cetera. So it seems to me that there's got to be more than just upgrading some more training. So what is the plan to actually expand this and cover some of these additional areas of concern?
Again, the immediate issue is dealing with the fiscal year 15 books and getting everything up on fiscal year 16 into Munis, and then doing the upgrades and the training. But as I said earlier, each one of those modules, it's going to take time to do that. It's not going to happen overnight. And frankly, it can't happen overnight because it would be wrong to try to implement immediate steps before, you walk before you can run. But again, Cheryl is my Munis expert. I know how to spell Munis, and that's about it. So I will have Cheryl.
Absolutely. When we do the upgrade, It'll, when we do the upgrade, it's going to take a while for us all to get used to the look, the feel, and how Munis acts. So it'll take a while to get to that point. Once we do, we can assess where we are with the training. Then start looking and costing how much more is it going to cost us to go and get the tax module. Now, you save money and it costs you money. You know what I mean? We're going to have to outlay some money, but what'll happen is we can get cash receipts in faster, reconcile faster. It works as an integrated financial management system, and right now we're not using it like that. So I think within the next year or so, we should be ready to walk to the next step.
And one last, through the chair, if I may. On the school side, they're also on Munis or will be on Munis?
Correct, they are on Munis.
Currently on Munis. So
Right.
I seem to remember hearing something over the past year about one side not being able to see the other side or something like that.
Well, no, they have access to Munis. They can look at all their accounts.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify one more thing, if you would. Our total deficit was 8.3 million. According to your report, there was 1.9 in overdraft, 1.5 taken from stabilization, 2.5 million local aid advances, and then the loan. So the total came to 8.3.
Just what page are you looking at, just so I can reference?
Great question.
There's some difference there between what's a deficit and what's needed for cash flow purposes. And so, I just want to be able to speak to that.
Is it on page 1?
Are you asking specifically about the deficit that's been funded by the legislation?
Not just by the legislation. That was the 2.4. I'm saying the total deficit that had accumulated over the past couple of years, and I'm assuming including insurance and all of that.
So Zach's correct when he says there's a difference between what's a cash flow issue and what's an actual deficit.
Okay.
So the deficits are what was funded by the legislation. And that's spelled out in the back of what appendix, Zach?
Yeah, that would be
34? Page 34?
That's up right, yeah. So that 2.972 on page 34, that's the total deficit that was financed through the legislation versus, when you have a situation that arises like that, you've got to do things like make payroll and everything else at the same time. And so there's a cash crunch that occurs when you're financing these things. And so that's what those local aid advances were there for. And that's where you're getting that total 26 million, I think it was, almost 8.3 million. And those are advances. This isn't additional money that was provided to you from the state. This is money that you were already being granted, and we were just providing it rather than a monthly basis. Over the course of the year, we were advancing that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay. I'd like to take this time to say thank you. This is a full and comprehensive report. I know there's been a lot of work going into it. I know that we'll continue to work our way through it. I think you have very cooperative boards going forward to solve the problem. We have put our foot on the right path, and we will continue to do so. The next big step for us will be hiring a full-time town manager, and we continue to look forward to moving forward and hopefully addressing a lot of these other issues that are in there. I know our cash flow, again, is kind of going forward right now. We seem to be okay. That was a freak thing that happened at the time. So a lot of processes have been put in place in this community. A lot of people have done a lot of hard work. They continue to work hard on school side, town side. The boards now look forward to working together to move us all forward and to put a strong front to the community that we are addressing all the problems that were here. And other than that, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Just while we do have all three of, the board and the committees here, should we consider looking to schedule a joint meeting? I believe, according to charter or bylaw, we have to do it quarterly. Is that something that we should want to look into at this point and see if we can get a date on the calendar?
We meet with the school committee by charter 4 times a year. We should be meeting with the finance committee, I think, twice a year. I think we wanted to move that forward.
I know that the charter right now calls for, doesn't really call for a joint meeting of all 3 boards. So I think it's important that, we be proactive at this point in time.
Okay.
Think in terms of a key point in terms of the development of finance. Certainly, I'd like to think that prior to the fall town meeting, wherever that would happen to be, we should plan on a joint meeting to share information at that point in time.
I agree with you totally. I think that if we're going to have a fall town meeting or somewhere in that range, that we should, all 3 boards should meet in October, which would give us plenty of time to have things laid out. It also gives the school department time to get the year started, to see where they're rolling. It also gives us a quarter of the town's side, quarter of the year for the town side to be moving forward. We can do some better projections. Would you agree?
I would. I was going to recommend that we'd like to shoot for a special town meeting at the end of October.
Okay.
So maybe
September.
maybe meet in September or first week of October, something like
Do
that.
you want to plan on meeting the second meeting in September? Will that give us enough time to look at?
I would think that would be September 28th, I think.
14th is the second Monday.
The 14th is the second Monday.
28th.
Oh.
Let's shoot for the 28th. Is that agreeable?
28th would work for me.
Everybody get a look at their calendar. What we also would like to do going forward is rotate them, not only on our nights, but also one night with the school committee and one night with the finance committee, because we want to try to coincide our scheduling, because as the budget season begins, everybody gets extremely busy. So I'd like to try to coordinate that going forward. So if we do September 28th for the first meeting, then we should be probably looking at January for the second meeting, which if you look up your calendar and email it to us, your meeting schedule for January.
Are you 6:30? Your meeting.
We're at 6:30, correct.
But
But if we're doing a joint meeting, we'll wrap up our business earlier and start at 7 to give everyone else a chance to catch up and get in town. Is that fair enough?
So you're saying 7 for us?
7 for the rest of the boards. That'll allow us to move forward with our business of the day.
First and third.
So if you look at January for one of your meetings, we'll plan accordingly. And then prior, we'll probably want to look at another
Meeting at the 4th Monday?
You want to do the 7th
What's
or
that?
the 20th?
You talked about January, were you talking about the 4th Monday?
I don't know what their schedule is off the top of my head, but she can email that.
January 7th?
January what?
7th?
January 7th.
7?
January 7th. And then we should meet on your schedule in March as we approach the budgetary season,
Concluding the budgetary season.
including, yeah. So,
That, a regular meeting in March would be on Tuesday, the 8th.
Tuesday, the 8th.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lynch?
if I may make a suggestion, in January, you hopefully by then you'll have a brand-new town manager on board, and the governor's budget won't be out on January 8th. It may make some sense to push your January meeting into late January, or even first part of February, particularly where you have a late, I believe when's your town meeting? I know you met
We usually meet mid-May.
May. So maybe do that and then push out your next one into April, and then There's something,
So
something like
first-
that.
First meeting in February then?
That would be the 4th.
February 4th, and then move that other one into April?
Yeah, April, I think makes a lot of sense. We have a lot of meetings set up in March for,
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Chairman, April is a big month for the Finance Committee, so usually that's the full, we meet almost every week during that month.
Well,
So
pick a date.
pick a date, hey, March.
We would still have to meet before our town meeting anyways.
Right. So why don't you look
Why
at
don't
your
we-
schedule and see how things lay out as we move forward for the April meeting?
Let's swap.
Yeah, we got plenty of time for April.
I think, again, understanding the sequence of when budgets are going to be completed, what we're going to be, what the purpose of the meetings are, things to clarify before we continue, before we complete budgets.
Yep.
Or is it a reason to get together after budgets are completed? So part of this, it'll be driven by the intent of, the meeting.
Right, well, by February 4th, normally the budgets are pretty much in place of what our projections are. They're not set in stone, but they usually, they're
in
pretty well
progress.
underway.
Yeah.
And, the school budget's generally pretty much asking for what they can get until the governor's numbers come in. Same thing on the town side. I know we've been able to project those numbers out, at least have a talking point. So that meeting in February, we'll at least have some numbers to look at as far as what the school side's going to be looking for. The town side will have better projections on what they're doing. We'll have that talking point at that point. And then when we meet in April, we'll be able to finalize a lot of the budgetary issues.
See, I think it might make sense for us to meet either in early May prior to the town meeting to discuss
We'll leave the-
warrants, the complete warrant at that point in time.
How about if we leave that open at this point?
Yeah, I think Ulysses pointed, the finance committee will be very busy during the month of April.
Okay?
So you
So-
want your warrant to be complete and focus on the warrant. at that
Okay,
time.
so what we'll do is we'll hold that April or early May meeting open
Yep.
to the discretion of the Finance
Yeah.
Committee.
Yep.
Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. All right, not seeing anything else, I look for a motion to adjourn, please.
I move to adjourn the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Can I get a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the chair votes aye also.
I
Thank
move to
you.
adjourn the Finance Committee
I'd
meeting.
like to do a little bit of business before we adjourn. Just two things.
I have a motion. I motion to adjourn the school committee.
We voted to.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To the audit committee. Didn't get in the minutes. So I'd like to do. So, it's all right. So what I would like to do is re-vote on that.
I'm pretty sure, we have to send everything in, and they are, I don't know how detailed it gets.
Correct.
Because Yeah.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Well, Jim, you
I
got a
will see you
question?
all next Monday. Stop, don't do that. I had to have it canceled.
Favor? Jim? Chair votes aye. I'll entertain a motion.
Adjourn. I vote to adjourn.
Thank you. Thanks.